Hello, I am Andrew Jackson. Which one of you is the Indian? That's the surprise. Also, my friend, my friend Kristen. Do you remember her? Who gave me the Calvin Coolidge bobblehead. She also gave me this, and I'm going to use it for this Atticus Hour because I'm going to be doing Andrew Jackson, which is the thing. This Benjamin Harrison and Woodrow Wilson. Do you even know how this is good? You know what? Yeah, let's get started. So, welcome to the Atticus Hour number 11. I don't know how many Atticus Hours we're going to do, but I think we've done most of the presidents, so I don't want my Atticus Hour to end. But of course it has to sometime. But let's just not get ahead of ourselves, right? Okay, here we go. Andrew Jackson. People say he was a great president. People say he wasn't. Many people say he was a great president. But I'm not gonna talk about that because honestly nobody likes to get dislikes on their videos on YouTube. So I'm not going to talk about if I like him or not. That's personal. So anyway, on to Andrew Jackson. First I'm going to name 3 facts about him, then I'm going to tell his presidency. Why does he have such fluffy hair? Name one reason. You know what? Never mind. Yeah, Jackson wants me to get on to his 3 fun facts. And then he'll answer yes or no if that's true about him. Okay? Let's see. What about you? You were the 7th president of the United States. Yeah! You're right. You're good already. You started the Indian Removal Act. I did. Are you an Indian? No, I am not, but thanks for asking. And you also, made your Vice President, Martin Van Buren, also be your Secretary of State in his first term. Martin Van Buren was Secretary of State in your first term and Vice President in your second. That's right. Boy, this guy has a big brain. Yes, I do. Anyway. So, here we go. On to his presidency. You will be my guy who still answers yes and no. Here we go. So, about his presidency, he was inaugurated in 1829. The year that basically everybody in, the country was just, gathering around the White House. China and glass was broken inside the White House for the party, and you had to escape by jumping out a window. Your first night at the White House, you weren't sleeping at the White House. You slept in, a nearby hotel. That's right. So, anyway, 1830, he starts the Indian Removal Act. You start the Indian Removal Act. And so what happens? That means that 5 Indian tribes were forced to move from their place from east of the Mississippi to move west. The 5 Cherokee tribes were the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Seminole, and Cherokee. Is that right? Yes, it is. And about 4,000 people died Indians died on the way. Not to be harsh with you, but I don't know, maybe you want to apologize because that was very mean. Wait, what year is it? 2017. Jeez, I should be dead, but you're not. You're still here with me. But yeah, you should apologize. But here we go. Anyway, so about his presidency, in 1832 he gets reelected against Henry Clay. Yeah. And in the election of 1828, that was easy for him. He beats John Quincy Adams, boom, by a landslide. John Quincy Adams out. The election of 1832 was a little harder for him, but he still won, even against Henry Clay, even though Henry Clay is the Speaker of the House. Anyway, yeah. I want to quiz question you. What did you do in 1834? I had that huge argument over the Second Bank of the United States. That's right. He did. The owner of the bank had been Nicholas Biddle, and Biddle and Clay were basically on the same side. They disagreed with Jackson, and Jackson disagreed with them. Then they had this huge argument. But then in 1834, the Second Bank of the United States was shut down or dead. He just killed it. Didn't you? Yes, I did. It was a very lousy fight, though. Yeah, but that's about Andrew Jackson. And then later, Martin Van Buren would become the 8th president, and I talked about him in the Atticus Hour number 2, which was only 8 minutes long. I don't understand that. Okay, here we go. Say bye-bye to Andrew Jackson. Bye, kids. Or adults. Or whoever's watching. So anyway, on to the cards now. Benjamin Harrison. Now, in the Atticus Hour number 8, I didn't want this guy because I already did Gerald Ford. Because he's the guy right between Grover Cleveland. And come on! Why would I do that? He's right in between Grover Cleveland, who I also talked on the Atticus Hour number 8. So I'm like, why do I have to talk about him? I wanted something later. Anyway, on to Benjamin Harrison. In the election of 1884, oh, he wasn't running. Never mind. 1888, he came against Grover Cleveland, who was the Democratic candidate, had already served 1 term. So Benjamin Harrison in the Republican Party, and he loses the popular vote. Grover Cleveland wins it, he loses it. Then the Electoral College, Grover Cleveland loses it, and Benjamin Harrison wins it. So Benjamin Harrison goes into office. So, 3 fun facts about him. Forgot. He was the first president when electricity was actually installed in the White House, though his wife and him were too afraid to touch the switches because they were afraid that they might be electrocuted. So really, they would just sleep with the lights on. It was weird. Because who likes to sleep with the lights on? Anyway, so on to Benjamin Harrison. Oh, that was only 1 fact about him. Second, his nickname was actually the human iceberg. I think because he didn't have many friends. And third, he was the grandson of William Henry Harrison, which was the first president I even first talked about in this whole Atticus Hour series. He was the first president I talked about in the Atticus Hour number 1, or the Atticus Hour, and in the whole Atticus Hour number series. So it's cool that I'm doing Benjamin Harrison. So on to his presidency now. So, Benjamin Harrison. This guy was elected a century, or if you don't know what a century is, if you're a little kid, it means 100, and you're watching this, it means 100 years from where you are right now. So he was elected 100 years, or century, after George Washington. because he was inaugurated in 1889, and Washington was inaugurated in 1789. So it's cool. And then later, George H.W. Bush would be inaugurated a century after Benjamin Harrison, and 200 years after George Washington. But anyway, on to Benjamin Harrison. So, what about him is that there was really a lot going on. I mean, we were about to get in a depression, which was in Grover Cleveland's second non-consecutive term, which I talked about in the Atticus Hour number 8. And the gold standard was about to happen, and in 1892, Harrison signs the McKinley Tariff, which was basically about like goods, foreign goods, and stuff like that. But it also hurt the Republicans badly. So what happens is he loses the election of 1892 to Grover Cleveland. Yeah. He also expanded the U.S. Navy, if you didn't know that. So that was cool. Now, the last president we're going to talk about in the Atticus Hour number 11 is Woodrow Wilson, or Thomas Woodrow Wilson. Yes, that was his actual first name. Woodrow was just his middle name. So anyway, on to Woodrow Wilson. The election of 1912 I have to talk about first, because that election, it was a little, it went a little weird. So what happens is the three candidates up to bat are the Republican William Howard Taft, the progressive Theodore Roosevelt. He and Taft had been fighting about who was going to get the Republican Party. But then when Taft won it, Roosevelt moved to the Progressive Party. Now, I know you're thinking, but Atticus, when you talked about Taft in the Atticus Hour, you did when you talked about Taft, because I did talk about Taft one time. You said that Roosevelt was Taft's friend. Well, in Taft's presidency, I guess I think I mentioned that a lot of the stuff that Taft did in his presidency changed Roosevelt's mind about him. So then the two were enemies. And so Roosevelt decided, I'm going to have to run again. I want to run for a third term. Not because he felt like it, but because he wanted to try to beat Taft and try to make everything okay again. But unfortunately, since Taft was really knocked out and put in last place with only 8 electoral votes, it came down to Theodore Roosevelt and Democrat Woodrow Wilson, who's this guy right here. And so, basically what Roosevelt did was he just split the Republican vote, so Taft is out, and made Wilson the winner. Of course, you don't want that to happen, but Wilson won. He won the election of 1912. So then what happens is when Wilson goes into office, you all know that World War I begins, and it was all over Europe, and when the war really got complicated and really bad. And they started attacking ships. Wilson thought, you know, it's time for us to enter the war. So we entered the war, and a lot of bad stuff happened. And you know, Andrew Jackson, you're gonna have to be in this too. So, did you know that Woodrow Wilson in 1916 was the first president to be reelected as a Democrat for 2 terms since Andrew Jackson? Did you know that? I can count it for you. For all the Democrats, let's see. Van Buren, 1 term, even though he was a Democrat. Polk, Democrat, 1 term. Pierce, Democrat, 1 term. Buchanan, Democrat, 1 term. Johnson, Democrat, 1 term. Well, Grover, you could say Grover Cleveland had 2 terms, but I wouldn't say that because of non-consecutive. This is consecutive, so 2 consecutive terms as a Democrat. And then there were no Democrat presidents after Grover Cleveland until Woodrow Wilson. So isn't that interesting? So then, 1918, the war ends also because of the Paris peace talks, which Wilson came to. I'm sorry, I almost called him Roosevelt. That's because he's really near both Roosevelts. Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt. Anyway, so 1920, Woodrow Wilson suffers a stroke and couldn't really concentrate on the rest of his presidency. Now, I know you're probably thinking, can the vice president do anything about this? I mean, can't Thomas Marshall do something about this? So, I think that's his name, Thomas Marshall. Isn't it? Yeah, let's see. Vice President Thomas R. Marshall. Okay, I'm good. So, on Wilson, his wife, Edith, actually takes control, and the government was like, the first lady, like, this was new, obviously. And that's really it. So, okay, I hate to break it to you, but this may have been the longest Atticus Hour. So I'm just going to pause right here because this has been way too long. Let Andrew Jackson just give 1 speech. I am very happy to be in this Atticus Hour. Please subscribe if you like to. And please leave a like. Oh, and also, I do not care if you're an Indian or if you dislike me. I am still a president.